Keep saying over and over again, we are not comfortable with this level of immigration. I understand why. It doesn't make you a racist to say that. And yet, the liberal parts of, certainly in America, Alex Padilla said last week, he is our senator here, by reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values. And then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called a racist, so we will not make a move on immigration.
So everyone is roasting the left for their failed sanctuary cities, and Maher has just joined the fray. According to him, the whole concept was never practical to begin with, and he even warned the DNC early on, but they refused to listen. Now, that same idea has fueled one of the worst migrant crises in history, and Maher can't stay silent anymore. Buckle up, folks, this one's blazing hot.
It's again the same principle as I was saying before about like the reverse of what liberalism really is. Liberalism is, for the sake of humanity and compassion, can we get these people off the streets? And woke is, how dare you ask them to move? This is their home.
They have rights.
No, it's not. There's easily a better solution to this. But instead they put them in hotels? That's your answer, hotels? Could everybody just stop the posturing?
Maher takes a hard stance on what he calls true liberalism, and it's not about turning the streets into open-air shelters. He argues that genuine compassion means getting the homeless off the streets, not making them comfortable living there. To Maher, real liberalism is about solving the root causes, including mental illness, addiction, and joblessness, not romanticizing homelessness as some alternative lifestyle. He blasts those who believe the homeless should be left alone wherever they are, calling that mindset a symptom of the fringe left. According to him, refusing to intervene isn't kindness, it's negligence disguised as virtue. Maher reminds his audience that liberalism once stood for solutions, for helping people rebuild their lives, not indulging delusion under the banner of empathy. In his words, progress isn't found in ignoring suffering, it's found in ending it.
Don't pretend that you love migrants so much, and then when we send them to you, you don't like them. You know? You're full of and we can see that. Yeah, you like them when it wasn't your problem because you're not a border state. And then when they show up in Chicago and New York, you're like, what are we going to do with these people?
That's true. We've watched several non-border blue states like New York, Illinois, and Massachusetts loudly champion open borders when it's politically convenient, only to panic when the migrants actually arrive. These states, far from the southern border, were the first to virtue signal about welcoming all and compassion without limits. But when buses filled with migrants began showing up in New York City, when Chicago's shelters overflowed, and when Massachusetts declared a state of emergency, they suddenly changed their tune. They pretend to love migrants when the cameras are rolling, preaching inclusion and empathy at every press conference. But once those same migrants show up at their doorstep, they're quick to push them away. It's a glaring hypocrisy, one that exposes the gap between their rhetoric and reality. Turns out it's easy to demand open borders when your own backyard isn't the one being flooded.
Eventually, this was going to come to a neighborhood near you, and it is. We need to control the border. We need to call a state of emergency, and we need to properly fund this national crisis. We need help. We need help, and it's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill. There is no more room.
That's Mayor Eric Adams, one of the loudest voices who once campaigned for open borders and proudly declared New York a sanctuary city. But now, faced with the overwhelming migrant crisis, he's singing a very different tune. Adams has realized the hard way that the open border fantasy was never sustainable. The shelters are full, the city's budget is collapsing, and the citizens are furious. So now he's calling for border control, an ironic twist from the man who once welcomed everyone with open arms. It's refreshing to see a dose of reality finally hit. But what about the likes of Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass or California Governor Gavin Newsom? Would they ever admit the open borders policy was a colossal mistake? Not a chance. They'll keep defending the illusion of compassion while their cities buckle under the weight of their own failed ideology.
Voters keep saying over and over again, we are not comfortable with this level of immigration. I understand why. It doesn't make you a racist to say that. And yet, the liberal parts of, certainly in America, Alex Padilla said last week, he is our senator here, By reviving Trump's asylum ban, Biden has undermined American values. And then they all stand back and go, we don't want to be called a racist, so we will not make a move on immigration.
That right there is the real problem. Many Democrats quietly recognize that the open borders policy is undermining America's safety and stretching its resources to the breaking point, but they're too afraid to admit it publicly. Behind closed doors, they see the strain on cities, the rise in crime, and the overwhelmed social systems. Yet when the cameras roll, they nod along to the party line. Why? Because speaking the truth comes with a price. The moment anyone within their ranks questions the policy, the fringe left swoops in with accusations of xenophobia, cruelty, or betrayal. So instead of honesty, we get silence. Instead of leadership, we get fear. Many Democrats would rather protect their image than protect the country. And that's why this crisis continues, because courage has been replaced by cowardice wrapped in political correctness.
It's going to get them at Election Day. It's happening in Europe right now. That proves it in Europe, and it's going to happen here in America.
There's a real moral reason that we should let people into this country who are suffering.
At any number?
No, I mean,
But that's their point. But 64% of Latinos support giving the president authority to shut down the U.S. borders. 62% of registered voters would deport all migrants.
This is where things get really interesting. According to the stats Bill Maher just cited, even immigrants themselves are against open borders. That's right, the very people the left claims to be protecting actually support stronger border control. They understand, better than anyone, the chaos that comes with uncontrolled immigration. Many came here legally, worked hard to build a life, and now watch in frustration as the system is overwhelmed by those who cross without accountability. These immigrants know that compassion without order isn't kindness, it's chaos. They've seen what happens when borders collapse and lawlessness takes over. So if the very people liberals say they're saving are calling for tighter borders, then maybe it's time for the Democratic leadership to listen. When those who've lived it firsthand start warning you, ignoring them isn't progressive, it's reckless.
What do you New Yorkers think of how Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul?
Yes, you pronounced it right.
I take it you're a big fan. Have handled the city's migrant crisis. I saw today they're offering any of these migrants, this sounds like a game show, a plane trip to anywhere in the world. There's policy, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, that's pure desperation right there. Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have both reached their breaking point with the migrant crisis and decided to get creative, or at least that's what they told themselves. Their solution? Offering free plane rides for migrants to relocate elsewhere. Sounds generous on paper, but here's the catch. Nobody's taking those flights. Why? Because the migrants didn't risk everything just to go anywhere. They came specifically to the United States. The plan flopped spectacularly, exposing the futility of a policy built on slogans rather than strategy. Now, the same Democrats who once bragged about being a sanctuary for all are quietly trying to distance themselves from the very crisis they helped create. They're running from their own policies, but can't admit it publicly, because that would mean admitting the conservatives were right all along.
Some of these places sort of deserve it. I'll ask you this. By saying we're a sanctuary city, like how these terrible racist border states were, and then when they called their bluff and sent the migrants to them, they were like, suddenly they weren't quite so liberal. They're what I call liberal in theory people. A lot of people are liberal in theory, and when the migrants arrived, they were like, what the f***?
I'd call it what it is, double standards. The liberals have mastered the art of saying whatever sounds good to the crowd, especially when the cameras are rolling and the election clock is ticking. They talk about compassion, equality, and inclusion, carefully crafting the kind of sound bites that win applause and votes. But when those same policies spiral out of control and start creating chaos, suddenly it's all silence and finger pointing. When the pressure hits, they distance themselves, pretending they never supported the very ideas they once championed. The moment the feel-good rhetoric meets reality, they run. It's political theater at its worst. Perform empathy when it's convenient, abandon responsibility when it's not. True leadership means standing by your convictions even when they backfire. But for many liberals today, it's all about optics, not outcomes. And that hypocrisy is finally catching up with them.
Part of this is a backlash to how badly Biden handled the immigration situation. It can't just be like come one, come all.
Which
Dude,
it was.
there's plenty of room here, and we need
Room.
Latif. There's plenty of room in America. Come on, there's not a lack of room in America.
But it's never about room, it's about resources and about like having countries have to have a border. It just can't be, I mean, they've done surveys and something like 200 million people around the world when asked, would you come to America if you could? Yes, I would. Why wouldn't they? Lots of countries, excuse me, are and they would love to be here. You can't just let
I'm not right. No, right. The places aren't, but
well, they are. And that's why they want to come.
And it's usually because of America, what America's done.
Bill Maher sums it up perfectly. It's not about room, it's about resources. America may be vast, wealthy, and powerful, but even the greatest nation on earth has its limits. You can't endlessly invite the world in when housing, healthcare, and social systems are already stretched to the brink. Compassion without capacity isn't sustainable. It's self-destruction disguised as virtue. Maher argues that instead of flooding across borders, migrants should channel that same determination into fixing their own countries, fight corruption, demand accountability, and build something better where they are. Because running to America can't be the only solution. Every nation must shoulder the responsibility of improving itself. As Maher puts it, if the US collapses under the weight of everyone else's problems, then no one wins. It's not cruelty to say no, it's realism in defense of a nation's survival.
Immigrants don't like it that the left seems to have this unrelenting negativity toward the country that these immigrants work so hard to get here.
Good point.
They really worked hard to get here. And when Trump says, I think a lot of them are going, yeah, you right, it's where I came from. Why do you think I got on the ocean on a raft or walked 1,000 miles? Because I was living in paradise? There are places that are in this world, and the immigrants know it.
I might not use the exact words Maher did, but he's right about one thing. There are many countries far less desirable than America. That's precisely why millions risk everything to come here, for safety, opportunity, and the promise of a better life. But here's the hard truth. Welcoming everyone without proper screening, documentation, or accountability doesn't make us noble. It makes us vulnerable. Unchecked immigration isn't compassion. It's chaos waiting to happen. We have no idea who's coming in, what their intentions are, or how our communities will bear the strain. America can remain a beacon of hope, but only if it protects what makes it worth coming to in the first place: order, law, and stability. If we ignore that, it's only a matter of time before our beloved America starts to resemble the very places people are desperate to escape. In the end, Maher's message cuts through the noise. America's compassion cannot come at the cost of its survival. Sanctuary cities have crumbled under their own hypocrisy, blue states are backpedaling, and even immigrants are calling for stronger borders. Yet the left refuses to admit what's obvious. Open borders don't save anyone, they endanger everyone. True liberalism isn't about slogans, it's about solutions. Until Democrats face the reality that a nation without control isn't a nation at all, the crisis will only deepen. America's heart is big, yes, but its resources and patience are not limitless. And on this note, we draw the curtains on